Hey everyone, Nubkeks here. It's everybody's favorite time of year. It's Christmas. No, it's patch notes time. Like, comment, subscribe for more amazing dad jokes like that. But we're diving into the patch notes for November 22nd, here, 2019. Two quick things before we start. Of course, stay tuned. This is not the Deathwing patch. Deathwing should be hitting the public test realm, the PTR, on Monday. So I will have videos up for you guys on Monday. I'll probably try to live stream it as well if you want to follow on Twitch. And then I'll obviously be playing him when he goes live on the live servers, which should be the following week. So not the upcoming, like, next patch. So like Wednesday, but the Wednesday after, Tuesday after, depending on region. Actually, that's all I wanted to cover beforehand. So there you go. Cool. Great. Let's dive in. All right. Quite a nice little patch we have here, actually. Quite a nice few little balance changes. I've already read through them, and let me guide you through them as well. So first up, we have Seasoned Marksman. The cooldown has been halved from 60 to 30 seconds, and the attack speed bonus duration increased from 3 to 4. We hop into the game. Let's see. I believe, pretty sure Arthas still has Seasoned Marksman. Indeed, he does. So this is what the new Seasoned Marksman does. Every minion killed near you gives you 0.2 attack damage. Takedowns give 0.5. When you have 40 bonus attack damage, you can activate the button. Gives you 40% attack speed for 4 seconds with a 30-second cooldown. Quite a substantial buff. I mean, just half cooldown by itself is a big buff, and then an extra third in terms of the time added on as well. So that's very, very nice. Again, like they're saying here, not that many heroes have Seasoned Marksman at the moment, but those that do will be very happy with that one. Like, for example, on Arthas, I actually think it's pretty decent now. It's that makes a lot better. All right, let's dive into the actual specific heroes. The first one we have is Arthas, who has a very nice change, actually. Number one, his talents will appear in the same order as other heroes, so just watch your Arthas hotkeys for taking talents. Watch that muscle memory. But here we go. This is a big change. Deathlord Q no longer increases the range of Death Coil. However, if you use it on an enemy hero, its mana cost is refunded. So the new one, we have some of this, like where they remove something and give additional functionality. It's a bit confusing, which is why we're going through in game, so it's all clear. Deathlord now reduces Death Coil's cooldown by 3 seconds. And if it's used on an enemy hero, its mana cost is refunded. Now, it does cost 50 mana. So, you cast 3 or 4 of these over the course of, just slight skirmishing and poking over an objective. And that's actually a lot of mana saved. That really does add up. This is quite a substantial buff, I would say. We'll see how it is to play with a shorter range. Immortal Coil, so if we look at the Death Coil build real fast on Arthas, it becomes so much more pickable, I think, because you no longer have those mana issues. Of course, Frozen Waste being the default E-build pick gives you some mana sustain because it reduces the channel cost. Well, this is even more substantial mana savings, right? So you get 3-second cooldown reduction on Death Coil and the mana cost if you use it on a hero. Immortal Coil always gives you the healing effect when you use it on enemies, which is, again, very substantial healing effect at level 1. I keep tabbing. I don't know why I'm hitting tab here. Okay, we have nothing really at 13. And then at 16, you can get Embrace Death. Death Coil does more damage and heals more the lower Arthas' current health is, to a maximum of 100% bonus damage and healing. So again, pretty nice. I mean, you could still just take Remorseless Winter for some roots or whatever. And that's all in terms of that build. But it's certainly, I think the 1-2 combo here of Deathlord Immortal Coil is very nice. It should give you a lot more self-sustain, actually. It should make you a lot more survivable. And I actually think for a lot of players, this is a pretty appealing build now. This could be very good. Yeah, I think this looks pretty great. Right, Diablo. Level 4, Sacrificial Soul. Souls gained from stunning an enemy hero with Shadow Charge increased from 5 to 10. So over here. And here. So stunning a hero with Shadow Charge gives you 10 souls and 25 armor for 4 seconds, while at 100 souls increases armor to 50. So I'm personally more of a fan of the W build on Diablo right now, but if you are going for something of a Q build and you're going to be triggering that multiple times, this just helps you build up your souls more. In the last patch, the one before this one, they made souls give you less maximum percentage health and they lowered Diablo's base health. So it's not as important, but yeah, it could definitely be make it a bit more appealing. Compared to Souls to the Flame is the one that's typically taken simply because, well, it's a nice little bit of extra healing, which is cool. But it's very easy to just gather up souls like that. It's very easy because dodging the flames, fire stomp, and sort of a teams or skirmishing environment isn't a very high priority. So it just gives you a consistent way to generate souls when you're low. I like that they're buffing this up, so it's going to do a bit better. Not a major change, though. Leoric. All right, we're into the bruisers. Leoric. Okay. Skeletal Swing. Cooldown reduced from 14 to 12 seconds, and mana cost reduced from 80 to 70. Very nice buff to Skeletal Swing. Very nice indeed. You can even grab Consume Vitality at 1 to reduce the cooldown by another 2 seconds to get it down to 10 seconds, which is a massive change from the 14 seconds it used to be. The mana cost. This is a very big buff. I think Leoric is already a good hero, and now he's going to be very good. Unyielding Despair then. Cooldown reduction if Drain Hope finishes. It's increased from 2 to 3 seconds. So again, we're looking at his W build, which is pretty weak, and they're trying to buff that up. So Unyielding Despair, it reduces the cooldown of Drain Hope by half a second. Every 1 second it's active. If it lasts the full duration, cooldown's reduced by an additional 3 seconds. So it's active for 3, is it not? No, for 4, sorry. So you get 2 second cooldown reduction if you do the full channel, plus an extra 3. So you'll knock it down from a 10-second cooldown to 5. And I believe because it's channel for 4, right? The cooldown starts as soon as you cast it. Yes, it does. So, yeah, if you get the full channel, you'll have 1 second downtime and then straight into another Drain Hope. So that's actually pretty nice. Just making that, you know, it's a slight little bit of extra cooldown reduction to encourage the W build. Because really the best build for the most part is the Wraith Walk one. I'm still not convinced by the W build. To be honest with you, I'm still not convinced by that. Versus just the mobility and the damage reduction effect of this with Royal Focus. Especially Royal Focus is based off of your Skeletal Swing, and with the reduced cooldown, that makes it very appealing. So I guess this is to somewhat counteract that build getting a sort of buff from that side. Sonya. Nice, very nice buffs to Sonya, which is cool. I expect to see Sonya a lot more with these changes. Whirlwind damage, just got a straight up 10% damage buff from 63 to 69 at level 1. Leap. Got a cooldown reduction from 70 to 60 seconds. And then Rampage, Ancient Spear cooldown reduction increased from 0.5. So that's actually a very substantial change. It used to be half a second. Now it's 1.5. So that's 25% more basic attack damage. And basic attacks reducing the cooldown of Ancient Spear now by an entire additional second, which is batshit crazy. So that just became absolutely incredible. And yeah, there you go. I mean, Whirlwind is quite a big deal because you heal from Whirlwind by default. You know, triple healing against heroes, also against the minion wave, so it's giving her a lot more wave clear, like 10% more wave clear almost. You're getting like 10% increased healing from that essentially. So yeah, it's quite a nice little change to Sonya. So we might actually see some Sonya because she's barely played at the moment, so she could become quite good. And there's definitely something to be said now for CC chain Sonya. You know, leaping 60 seconds, I think is a nice change. The Wrath is still incredible. But Rampage just became very, very, very scary. You know, Giant Slammer is still really good as well. You know, your basic attack, Seismic Slam, do more max health damage and heal you for the damage dealt. That's very strong. Nerfs of Steel is a good safe option. I think it's a bit overrated, though, especially compared to these now. These, I think, are the way to go. So Sonya perhaps being played as something of an aggressive bruiser. I'll definitely try to get you guys a Sonya video soon. That's pretty exciting. Jumping over to healers next, and Alexstrasza is going to be our first one. Okay, lots of changes to her actually, mostly to her E-build. Level 1, Flames of Fury, additional functionality. Cool, what is Flames of Fury? It's a quest. So now, this is the additional functionality, reduces the cost from 50 to 40. So that's quite nice. Of course, you get the full refund on Flame Buffet, or Flame Buffet, I don't know, when you do hit someone that's already burning. But it makes that initial cast, that initial poke, a lot more forgiving. And the quest is hit 20 heroes with it, and then the reward is that whenever you hit someone with it, reduces Dragon Queen's cooldown by 5 seconds, which is pretty nice. Right, level 4 then, Heat Exhaustion. Slow amount has been reduced from 60 to 50, but now the slow from Flame Buffet, or Buffet, no longer decays, so pretty nice. So an extra small little bit of the slow from 40 up to 50 now. Not particularly noticeable, I would say, compared from 40 to 20. From 40 to 60, which is plus 20. You know, that's plus 50. That's like half the slow again on top of it. You know, it's an extra 50% slow essentially off of your 40%. Now it's much smaller. It's like 25% of the 40%, but it's still, you know, it's there. It's more about the decay thing, which I think is pretty interesting. So the way that it worked was a 40% slow decaying over 2 seconds. Now it's And with the old talent, it was 60% decaying over 2 seconds. Now it's a flat 50 for 2 seconds. That's a pretty big buff. That's a very large slow. That lasts quite a long time. And again, the cooldown is 2 seconds. So, yeah, it's pretty damn good. At level 13, Dragon Scales has been buffed from 40 to 50 armor. So it's gained 50 armor when stunned, rooted, or silenced, and for 2 seconds after. Can only trigger once every 10 seconds. I actually think this is a great talent. I thought at 40 armor it was great as well. But yeah, this is a very good one. Obviously, Alexstrasza, when she starts taking damage, her Gift of Life, which costs a percentage of current health, becomes less powerful. So yeah, like it's a pretty nice change. You know, getting damage onto her, especially if she's stunned or whatever, is very powerful. So yeah, I mean, these other talents are good too, but Dragon Scales I think is very pickable, and it's very passive compared to these, which are actives. So I think it's just a great trait in general. Level 16, Tough Love has been increased as well. Armor amount increased from 20 to 25, and duration from 2 to 2.5. So that's Tough Love, while Alexstrasza is above 75% health. Gift of Life grants its target 25 armor for 2.5 seconds. I think it's okay. I think, though, it is, you know, honestly, like, Overprotective is definitely the worst one on this tier, I would say, probably. It's quite weak. A Draconic Discipline is just so good. Dragon Queen duration increased by 7 seconds. That ups it from 15 to 22 seconds, which is amazing. It lets her get a second cast, an easy second cast of her Dragon Queen Preservation, which is a pretty big deal, and she's just so much stronger in Dragon Queen. It's hard to just not take Draconic Discipline. This is a nice buff, but I'm not really particularly sure that it's good enough. You know, compared to like level 16 onwards is like the late game, right? I think I'd rather just have the bigger Dragon Queen for that big, you know, those big late game team fights which define the game than be giving a little bit of single target armor. But that's more of a generic, you know, a general problem with level 16. Overprotective is even worse, I would say. So there you go. And then Ancient Flame at 20 no longer reduces Alexstrasza's attack speed. So this is pretty cool. While Dragon Queen is active, her basic attacks now apply Flame Buffet. When you add on when you add on the cooldown reduction on Dragon Queen, oh, that's a pretty good synergy. And then you add that they're doing a 50% slow to everyone that you hit. And then, of course, Fire Within, hitting a burning hero with Flame Buffet, heals Alexstrasza 10% of her max HP. That E-build is starting to look really good. You even get the tankiness from Dragon Scales, extra duration, Ancient Flame, and I think she's looking pretty spicy there. I'm liking the look of an E-build Alexstrasza, so I like it. There we go. Brightwing. Okay. Greater Polymorph. No longer resets the cooldown of Polymorph on takedowns. Additional functionality. If Brightwing hits an enemy hero with Arcane Flares, center damage while they're polymorphed, then reduce Polymorph's cooldown by 6 seconds and gain 50 mana. So this is the new effect, the full thing. Increases Polymorph's range, and then what they said, hit someone polymorph with the flare center, reduce the cooldown. Now, I feel like this is a little bit awkward to use for sure. They're polymorph for 1.5 seconds, 25% move speed, so it's quite difficult to hit an arcane flare on that, I would say. But if you do, you get a pretty big return on your money. You get a full refund on the mana for polymorph, and additionally, it halves the cooldown, which is extremely strong. So there you go. That's definitely a very powerful but pretty high skill cap level 1 talent for Brightwing. I mean, it's not my cup of tea, but I think, you know, it could be pretty dominant for those Brightwing mains. You can make very big plays with that. Critical Mist. Adjusted functionality. Soothing Mist heals allies heroes for 150. Double this healing if it disable effects. Okay. So this is it now. So what? Okay, I think this just straight up buffs the default healing. So by default, you're healing for 105 health every 4 seconds. I believe this ups that to 150, which is pretty powerful. Or is it only when you activate? I'm really unsure about that. That's very confusing, isn't it? So is it doing... No, I think it just ups the default, the baseline, by like 50%, the passive healing, which seems extremely strong. And then it will do double that amount of healing if Soothing Mist removes a disabling effect. So when you use the active, it will do double that. I'm not entirely sure. I believe so. So that makes it very powerful. Compared to this is giving a shield. And this is a slow. And this one is just you do 50% more healing. With your passive healing. Okay. That's a weird one. I'm not going to lie. We need Brightwing mains to test that out and confirm for us. That seems pretty... Yeah, that's pretty dramatic. Huh. Safety Dust then. Bonus allied healing increased from 25 to 75%. Now has a crit kicker to show when the bonus healing is applied, so just make you feel better about it. What's it? Safety Dust. So, increases Pixie Dust duration by 1 second, and you heal allies with an active Pixie Dust for 75% more. So that's quite substantial, obviously, compared to before. Honestly, like 25% more healing was pretty underwhelming. So you give them 4 seconds of spell armor with the talent, and you heal them for more. Probably a bit more combined with Blink Heal, where you can sort of point and click heal them as well. Give them a bit of a burst of healing. That could be pretty nice. So there you go. Now it will heal her teammates. Critical Miss will heal her teammates regardless if she removes the status effect or not. Yeah, I think it's just 50% more passive healing. Alright. Rehgar. Feral Heart. No longer increases his mana regen in Ghost Wolf. However, it will give you 1% of your maximum mana per Ghost Wolf attack and quadruple against enemy heroes. So 4%. That's pretty interesting for sure. I'll definitely want to play with this to see how it feels. You still get your health regen up 75%. I would say certainly against minions, this is going to be relatively underwhelming, but 4% mana back against heroes is quite a chunk. Your Feral Heart has it's a 4-second cooldown, same as a mount, right? So yeah, that could give you a lot of mana back in a team fight. Like that's actually, I think, pretty good. Stormcaller is obviously good against, minion waves, but I'd say Feral Heart now is looking more appealing, and then Healing Totem just gives you straight up more healing throughput. So I think it's quite an interesting talent tier now. At this point, it's like, okay, are we going to be pushing a lot of minion waves? Maybe I want the Stormcaller. We're not actually going to be fighting them that much, but we dominate them. So let's go for like an earlier win, or maybe we're on a map like Infernal Shrines, where the objective is lots of little minions, so to get value there. Versus this, okay, in team fighting, I want more mana regen. Versus Healing Totem, I just want more healing throughput. Interesting choice. I actually quite like that talent tier, so that's pretty good in my opinion. Tyrande. Everlasting Light at 1, healing bonus increased. We have a lot of changes here in this patch. So, if Light of Elune second charge is cast on a different target from her first, it heals for 60% more. I think this is now really good. Elune's Chosen obviously is great, but they did nerf it slightly. But it gives a ton of single target healing. This just gives you a ton of spread healing on your team. Mark of Mending is extremely underwhelming, I would say, at this particular point, even with other trait builds. Everlasting Light is looking very appealing. It's like, okay, do I want big single target healing? Or do I want, like just significantly more teammate healing just spread around? So there you go. True Shot Aura got a big buff. Active damage bonus increased 15% to 25%. True Shot Aura. So passively gives her 15% more basic attack damage. Okay, that's cool. When you activate it, it resets Hunter's Mark, so that's fine. But you give the bonus damage, you give 25% bonus attack damage to nearby allied heroes for 5 seconds. So this can be quite powerful in a pick composition, I'd say. I've tried it before, and it's not too shabby, actually. So yeah, it's not too bad, right? If you got heroes with powerful basic attacks, a number in your team, and good focus fire on the team, this could be a good particular option. Starfall, get a slight damage buff, 88 to 92. Not too bad. One thing to note is, of course, that Starfall, it does damage in an area, and your Light of Elune cooldown, Light of Elune's cooldown is reduced every time Tyrande damages an enemy. Alright, so every time Starfall damages someone, it gives you a notch of cooldown reduction on Light of Elune. So you can potentially spam out tons of Qs. So there's definitely something to be said for Everlasting Light plus Starfall as a nice little synergy. Cool. Quickening Blessing. Light of Elune's bonus move speed increased from 15 to 25%. So she baseline gains 5% move speed, and Light of Elune increases the target's move speed by 20% for 3 seconds. This is very good. I'm not really sure why they buffed it. I thought it was already quite good, 15% move speed. But there you are. It's competing against the Sentinel slow and reducing damage, which is pretty decent as well. And Ranger's Mark, which is basic attacks, reduce Hunter's Mark cooldown, and attacks against the mark target reduce Lunar Flare cooldown, which is a little bit awkward to use. These other two are good, but yeah, that one seems quite solid. Quickening Blessing. I'm not really sure why they buffed it, but they did, so there you go. Eyes of the Huntress. Reveal duration increased from 2 to 10 seconds. And no longer requires allies to be... Wow. Oh my lord. So they were just like, wow, that talent sucks. Okay. So now, Shadowstalk reveals all enemy heroes for 10 seconds and straight up heals for 50% more. Wow. Okay. That is one of the biggest buffs I've ever seen. That is hilarious. All right. From 2 to 10 seconds. Damn, that's pretty powerful. I guess, you know, they would have considered maybe too strong in like pro play, and now they're just like, yo, fuck it, let's just make it completely batshit crazy. Oh, there you are. Celestial Wrath, additional functionality, increases the slow from Starfall to 40%. So it makes Starfall apply Hunter's Mark to everyone, which is pretty underwhelming, because people don't really stand in it that much. But increasing the slow makes it better, and if you're slowed and locked into that Starfall for longer, that makes it a lot better too. What is the slow by default? It's only like 20%, right? Okay, yeah. So it doubles the slow. I think there's a pretty big difference between a 20% and a 40% slow. Like 40% slow is very, very noticeable. That makes it much better. So they really up these. Honestly, her level 20s are really cool, I think. You know, like Ice Blade Arrows is really cool. More attack speed. I mean, you'll put a damage reduction effect. Shooting Star, more range, and getting free Lunar Flares. Like, they're very good. And now you've got like a big slow on Starfall, plus applying Hunter's Mark, and you've got Shadowstalk bananas showing the entire enemy team. Pretty interesting stuff. Hell yeah. Alright, cool. There you go. Big changes for her. Alright, Whitemane. Intelligence level 4. Oh, that's Rehgar. It's a trait talent. Great. Good job. Right icon. Cool. Inquisition, cooldown reduced from 14 to 12 seconds, and damage increased from 47 to 50, so small damage increase. Nice cooldown effect. Does that affect her? Does it even show it here? Shares a cooldown with Clemency. Man, they don't even display Clemency, so I don't know if that they like is Clemency a 12-second cooldown as well? I feel like it was, and Inquisition was 14 seconds, but that could be wrong. And it definitely made no sense. Anyway, well, screw it, whatever. I don't know if this is... I still think Whitemane's a bit of a mess, and the rework was pretty bad, but whatever. Zeal, the cooldown has been reduced from 60 to 40 seconds. So this is your activatable ability, which, again, it doesn't even show the cooldown here. Right, where you can activate it to give 25% spell power and lose 25 armor for 5 seconds. There's now a 40-second cooldown. Fine, I guess. I don't think that makes a particularly big difference. But it's there. Okay. Level 1, Pity the Frail. Cooldown reduction increased. Pity the Frail. Every hero hit with Searing Lash lowers the cooldown of Inquisition by 1.5 seconds. Allies below 30% receive more healing from Whitemane. Okay. So a bit more cooldown reduction. Sure. Martyrdom. Bonus healing increased. So, Desperate Please healings increased by 30%, increased by an additional 10% for each active seal. So just baseline your Q seal for 30% more. That's a pretty big deal. They obviously want that to compete with Unwavering Faith, so just going for the basic attack build. I think this is really good, actually. And then get more move speed for active seals. Seems really underwhelming, honestly. Martyrdom, I'm not really sure why they made this so strong. I'm not really sure why they didn't make the extra zeals active. Make it heal for more to add a skill component, just giving you flat 30% more healing from Desperate Plea. To me, is a question mark. I'm sorry I'm being so... I feel like I'm being mean to the guys that have worked on Whitemane. I'm just... Yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit scarred, I guess, from what they did. Anyway, Scarlet Aegis now actually is 60 seconds, which again is kind of crazy to me because it's such a powerful cooldown. But there you go. Apparently it's 60 seconds now. I think it's really strong. 40 armor to everybody nearby. It's very powerful against dive. And Scarlet Crusade, unstoppable duration has been doubled. This becomes really nice as well. Scarlet Aegis giving unstoppable for 2 seconds. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, for me, I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna pick Whitemane against like heavy dive, So if they do something like, you know, they've got some sort of Maiev heavy dive composition, I'm going, okay, cool. They like pull us all into the cage and they're trying to just dive on us and blow us up with AoE. Pop Scarlet Aegis. Every 60 seconds I can do it. Give everybody 40 armor. Great. I spam out a bunch of big chunky heals. And we just survive their dive AoE burst combo. And we're good. At level 20, I make everyone unstoppable so they can just walk out of the Maiev cage. Hey, it's all good. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like they're really struggling at the moment. Like, I feel like most of their balance changes are good, and I feel like they came to Whitemane and they just they're just like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing, man. Just, yeah, fucking change stuff for the sake of it, and let's hope it works. But anyway, melee assassin Alarak. All right, Alarak, who's banned all the time. Here we go. Alarak. So straight up Discord strike damage is down about. Not quite 10%, about 5%-ish. So there you go. Discord Strike doing a little less damage. Ruthless Momentum. Health threshold changed. So this is now, while you're above 80% health, it recharges 75% faster. Instead of 75% health. So it's going to be, it's more punishing in terms of when you get that cooldown reduction. Show of Force, the damage has been lowered. Again, maybe 5% or so. And Show of Force is, of course, when you hit 3 of your abilities within 2 seconds, people take additional damage. I don't know. For me, I feel like, personally, I would rather they just lower... I don't like lowering his base damage, per se. I'd probably prefer if they reduce his sadism. For me, the thing that I don't like about Alarak, personally, is that he snowballs really hard. And, like, if your team messes up and they start dying to Alarak, then he just becomes so insanely strong and does so much damage with the sadism bonuses, amplifying it all, that it becomes insane. I don't feel like when he has just baseline sadism that he's, you know, any more overpowered than any other option in particular. It's just more, it's very frustrating to play against a stacked Alarak. So I don't know. I prefer if they just, you know, just lowered his sadism a bit, made it a little bit more forgiving. Like, I don't know if his win rate was even that crazy. It's just more that when he starts to win, he snowballs. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that, but there you go. Genji. Level 4. Strike the heart damage dealt has been slightly reduced. Damage is now dealt after 1 second instead of over 2 seconds. Okay. Genji. So enemies hit by the end of Swift Strike. So it's a little chunk in the end of Swift Strike. There's a big chunk of extra damage after 1 second. So overall, I'd say that's a buff. It's just an extra chunk of burst damage instead of a slow dot, which I think is better. And the damage change is very small, really. So I think that's just, it's a slight buff, but not a particularly big deal. Augmented, I don't even know if you necessarily want to go for an E-build with Genji, but at least it's there. It makes it a lot more usable, I would say. Anyway, Augmented Shield, W, shield amount increased from 50 to 75% of damage taken. So that's shield of damage deflected, which is, it's okay. I mean, they increased it by half, essentially. So, yeah, there you are. People tend to not hit you when you do use deflect. They tend to avoid shooting you, so... There you are. And dodge has been buffed after I remember they nerfed this so many times when it first came out. So you dodge 1 heroic basic attack every 7 seconds. So yeah, he's got a lot of defensive options here. I think, you know, it's a fine tier. There may be, I don't know. I think they all sound better than they actually end up being, but maybe that's just me. And X-Strike got some damage buffs. Actually pretty substantial one. So the initial damage up about 10%, a little under, and then the final damage again up a little under 10%, probably 8% on both of them, something like that. So that's quite a nice little buff to X-Strike. Like Genji's in a pretty rough, he's in a pretty rough spot. I'm not gonna lie. He's in a pretty rough spot right now. It's very difficult to justify a Genji. I guess you're kind of hoping for like the sort of perfect Dragon Blade and a level 20 Dragon Blade reset sort of thing. I don't know. Genji's kind of a shadow of his former self. I'm not sure if this is particularly going to change anything. They're relatively small changes, but nice little buffs for him, which is good because obviously I like playing Genji. I'm not a Genji hater like a lot of people. Junkrat, cooldown reduction on Boom Pow, increased from 9 to 10 seconds. Where is our favorite little Junker? Wait, where is he? I'm blind. I'm super blind. There he is. Last place I looked. Hitting enemy heroes with concussion mine, reducing the cooldown by 10 seconds. I think that's quite fun. And I think the offensive mine build is quite fun. So it's quite a lot. You knock it down from 16 to 6 seconds with that now. Pretty big deal. Sticky Wicket. The silence duration has been reduced from 2.5 to 2 seconds, which again I think is fair. I would say historically, Blizzard has... I feel like they've undervalued silences and they let silence effects be very long, which personally I haven't been a big fan of. I certainly think Sticky Wicket was so strong that it completely put you off even taking big as. So I think it at least makes it a bit more of a fair comparison now, which I think is good. And then Riptire, as it's had its damage knocked down quite a bit. Maximum damage down from 775 to 720. So maybe 5% down or something. And the minimum damage, something along those lines as well. So reducing Riptire damage, which I think is good. Because you pretty much always take Riptire, and extra oomph is pretty insane. If you spam out a bunch of Riptires, you can totally just win the game with that alone. So I think it's a good change overall. Junkrat's been very powerful, so yeah, there you go. W build not up to par, sure. Nerfing damage of Riptire, it is outperforming, which is not. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, right? There you go. All right, Kel'Thuzad. Chilling Touch, bonus damage reduced. Okay, so Chilling Touch is this basic. Every 8 seconds, your next basic attack hits all enemies in the area for 80% more damage, and it deals spell damage, and it slows by 30% for 2 seconds, so it's doing slightly less bonus damage to slightly decrease his burst potential. Frost Blast, starting missile speed increased by 60%. That is, of course, your point-and-click route. That zoom. Now it's going to go out a lot faster. I feel like they've already increased this speed in a previous patch, and now it's been increased even more. So again, they're trying to encourage more of a sort of consistent damage, CC spreading, slow spreading, root spreading Kel'Thuzad, which honestly I think is good. I hate this one-shot burst combo Kel'Thuzad. I think it's one of the worst hero designs in the entire game. I think it's awful. I think it's extremely inconsistent. It's not fun to play with it. It's not fun to play against it. I'd much rather if he was just a slowing root, like kind of a CC heavy mage. He just does consistent damage. So any buff to Frost Blast and nerf to burst damage is a good thing in my book. Then Icy Grasp, bonus slow amount increased, and cooldown reduction increased. So it increases Frost Nova slow by 20%. So it's going from a 35% slow for 2.5 seconds to a 55% slow for 2.5 seconds. And each time Kel'Thuzad damages enemies slowed by Frost Nova, reduce the cooldown of Frost Nova by 0.5 seconds. Very cool. Very cool. There you go. Very minor. Yeah, I mean, this one is pretty interesting. I think this one is actually a pretty big deal, because it means that you can use the Frost Blast more aggressively. I think that's pretty important. So there you are. Lunara. Nature's Toxin damage scaling reduced from 5% to 4%, but baseline damage increased. Overall, this should be a moderate buff for her for most of the game, a slight nerf in the late game. So I think that's totally fine. That's great. I mean, 4% scaling is the default, so makes sense. Nothing much to say about that. Lots of changes to Nazeebo, though. Nazeebo. Brup. Poor old Nazeebo. He's been in a rough spot recently. We played one game of Nazeebo on stream, and I think I just kept talking about how bad he feels at the moment, how weak. But anyway, Widowmakers. A lot of additional functionalities. Let's just look at the new Widowmakers, yeah? So now, reduce the mana cost of corpse spiders by 10. So from 50 to 40. Cool. Quest. Okay, so the quest is to hit heroes with the spiders 100 times. Each spider attack counts as one. And then after you finish that, their attack damage is increased by 30%, and the cooldown of corpse spiders reduced by 2 seconds. So that's very nice. So it goes from a 9-second to a 7-second cooldown. So that's very, very, very promising. So it's an additional 2-second cooldown reduction plus mana cost reduction. That's big. Thing of the Deep as well now has a quest. After 50 stacks of Voodoo Ritual, gain 10% spell power. 100 stacks, gain additional 10%. So that's very easy to complete that quest. That won't take you much time at all. That makes Thing of the Deep a lot more pickable. I mean, I think it's hilarious, right? Okay. This is... Okay. Just stop and think about how bad Thing of the Deep was. That they gave it, essentially from the middle of the game onwards, 20% more damage across all of your spells. 20% more. Bear in mind, Your damage increase per level, by default, is, for most spells and most heroes and most abilities, is 4%. 20% more spell power is the equivalent of being 5 levels higher. So it's like, okay, with this finished at like level, if you finish at like, let's say level 12, you're hitting as hard as if you were level 17 Nazeebo with the spell power. That's how shit this talent was. That's how much they had to buff it. So I think that's pretty interesting. I'd say like Toad build's now looking pretty bad. This looks pretty good, and on the Corpse Spiders looks pretty good too. What else did they change though? Dead Rush, okay, another rubbish talent that people love taking. Now, Zombie Wall does 100% more damage now, and then it expires, and the zombies chase and attack people. I think it's still pretty bad. Honestly, it is a question. Like, I think the Deep looks really good. I've got to be honest. I think the Deep looks really good, even with Spider build. Toad build is pretty underwhelming. And Spirit of Arcure is nice. I guess you kind of need... I don't know. It's definitely something to test out and see what actually feels better. Then level 20, Annihilating Spirit. No longer increases the move speed of Ravenous Spirit. Each time it deals damage to an enemy hero, its damage during that cast increased by 5%. Okay, so this one. Increases the range of Ravenous Spirit by 50%. And then 5% more damage each thing for the rest of its cast. I feel like Vital Infection will still do more damage because it applies the dot. Again, that's something to math out. Like, how many times do you have to hit with Annihilating Spirit? And it's slower now, so it's easier to dodge it. Versus, well, the Annihilating Spirit just applies Vital Infection, and you're good. And it's pretty easy to finish that quest. I guess if somebody, like, is griefing your team and they pick Nazeebo on something like Cursed Hollow and they never finish their stacks, that's nice. So that's good. And maybe it won't be as griefing now that he's got some buffs to his other talents. We'll see. We'll see. I would like to see some slight increases on the cast speed of his abilities, but maybe Thing of the Deep will help with that, just because the move speed buff that they gave just across the board made Nazeebo kind of... He feels a little bit bad. But anyway, Zagara, basic attack damage increased quite a lot, 76 to 85. That's pretty noticeable, actually. Lots of talent changes for her as well. Level 1, Volatile Acid no longer increases bailing damage against non-heroic targets. I think it was 50% bonus damage against non-heroes. But now, 20% more damage. Additional effect. What's it do? Bailings travel 50% further before exploding. Their damage is flat increased by 20%. Cool. Corpse Feeders no longer reduces roachling damage against non-heroic targets. Additional functionality increase the health. So what's that do? Reduces the cooldown of Infest to drop by 3 seconds. Roachlings have 30% more health. So from 12 to 9. Okay. And Infest initial damage bonus for ranged minions increased from 100 to 125%. So nearby ranged minions do 125% more damage plus 1% per 1000 siege damage Zagara has dealt. Can be toggled on or off. So pretty interesting change across level 1, I have to say. I was a big fan of the old Volatile Acid because I think like I said, it was 50% more damage baseline against non-heroes. So you could use it to just destroy towers really early. You could use it to nuke merc camps and nuke minion waves and stuff like that. Now you just get flat 20% damage. Serrated Spines change from flat damage to 2%, 0.2% per stack. Again, I'm not sure what the math of that is. I guess it will scale better, but it won't be as strong early, but I'm not really sure. Someone would have to math it out and figure out how it applies across different levels. Sorry. Recording vid. Sorry. So yeah. Baneling Massacre no longer increases the damage of banelings. Additional functionality. Reduce the charge cooldown of banelings by 0.5 seconds. Alright. So, gain 2 additional charges of banelings and reduce the cooldown of Baneling Barrage by 0.5 seconds. What is the cooldown? 3. So it makes it 2.5. And you can have up to 6 charges. Okay. It certainly means that, okay, let's say with old Zagara, with the old Volatile Acid, plus 20% more damage, you had like plus 20% baseline damage on Banelings, and then an additional 50% damage against non-heroic sources. So for nuking towers, merc camps, minion waves, that was a lot of nuke damage. Now with this, you just have flat 20%. So that's a lot of damage lost. Yes, you get faster charges, but that's kind of spending an extra 10 mana per charge. You will burn through that. So I feel like that's a nerf to like the Q build. I guess it opens up other builds. Yeah, something like that. Devouring Maw, mana cost reduced substantially and damage increased. You forget it does damage. It does do damage. Devoured enemies, oh, they take damage per second for 4 seconds. That's a decent enough buff then. Hey, not too bad. The mana cost is a big deal as well. Makes them all a lot more usable. It's certainly interesting. I still feel like most of the time you're picking Zagara for the Nidus bonus. Like the extra creep spread, the map mobility, the cooldown reduction on creep is pretty big. Just for map presence, which is usually why you pick her, but it's an interesting option. Yeah, cool. We'll see how that works out. Maybe more of a teamfight Zagara. We'll see. Level 16 Brood expansion is gone. Ooh. Okay, 3 talents here. Corrosive Saliva. Roach Stings deal additional damage equal to 1.75% maximum health to enemy heroes. When attacking heroes, hunter killers and roachlings deal additional damage equal to 1.75% of the maximum health. That is an absolutely colossal buff. Colossal buff to her like tank melting damage in the late game, if you think about it. If you go for like corpse feeders, reduce cooldown, the roachlings are tougher. They might just die to AoE. And then you could potentially get this. If you ever finish this quest, get an additional roachling. It's pretty good. That's definitely an interesting one. It doesn't mean the hunter killer is weaker. Obviously, it was doing more. The fact that roachlings do it now is interesting. Obviously, the roachlings will target sort of random stuff. That's one to definitely test out. It could be great. It could be terrible. We'll have to see. Mutalisk now reduces the cooldown of hunter killer by 4. Wow. Okay, so hunter killer is now a Mutalisk. They have the bounce attack, lasts for 30 seconds. So it gives them like nice split push power and nice team fight power too. And reduces the cooldown by 4 seconds. So from 16 to 12. That's really good. I'm surprised they buffed that because you're always taking it. And a new talent, Jagged Barbs. While on creep, Zagara's attack range is increased by an additional 10%, and her basic attack damage increased by 30%. I forgot that her range was increased on creep. She gets 20% more attack range. What do you know? I forgot about that. So now you gain 30% increased attack range, and your basic attacks do 30% more damage. Oh, that's probably why they changed the rated spines. I wonder how those stack, or if they even stack at all. I mean, maybe it's okay. I feel like being on creep is a little bit situational. Yeah, these seem pretty good. So level 16 definitely got a lot more interesting. So I like what they did with Zagara. Yeah, I like that. Some nice changes. And there you go. So they are the changes of this particular patch. It's been a heck of a long video. Sorry it was so long. But Seasoned Marksman, that's a substantial buff. A substantial buff to Q-build on Arthas. Minor buff to make this less rubbish. A substantial buff to Leoric, I would say. Just baseline, that's big. Substantial buff to Sonya. A substantial buff to E-build Alexstrasza. Very interesting changes to Brightwing, which I'll keep my opinion pending. But sort of higher skill cap stuff here, which is probably great for Brightwing mains. It makes me want to play Brightwing even less. Sorry, Brightwing, just don't like you. Rehgar, interesting change here. I like it actually quite a lot. Tyrande, some nice buffs across the board for her, especially around for Starfall. On the level 20s, some massive buffs to level 20s for Tyrande. Lots of semi-weird changes to Whitemane, nerfs across the board really to Alarak. Minor buffs to Genji. Overall nerfs, slight nerfs to Junkrat. Buffs to some of Kel'Thuzad's never picked talents, and a nerf to Chilling Touch, small one. Irrelevant change to her. Big changes to Nazeebo. And very big changes to Zagara. There you go. That's the patch. Hope you guys enjoy. Let me know what you think. And I will see you for some gameplay very soon. Bye-bye.